we've got a new series for you. I have been playing a number of games for quite some time now, and I'm going to be pulling out different openings and different games that I thought were instructive in the course of my chess journey, so to speak. And in this one, I'm going to be playing white, and we're going to have an Advanced Caro-Kann. I got to say, if you are struggling against the Caro-Kann when you're playing, say you're a classical player or you play any of the sidelines, and please don't play the exchange. Just in general, people are like, but it's easy. It's like the Alapin. No. Yes, if it's easy for you, it's easy for the opponent as well. And I'm sorry, it just gets boring playing the exact same things over and over and over with black. And no, that's not an advantage. It just means your opponent knows how to play against it. This is the best scoring way to play against the Caro-Kann. It has been since Karpov was playing the opening. And if you're an e4 player, I highly recommend that you do the advance. So let's go further. My opponent in this game plays bishop f5, and I've got a number of games on the channel where, say, I've tried knight a6, and that's a very speculative move, has some good surprise value, but c5 is a secondary move. Keith Arkell plays that quite a lot, but bishop f5, the main line. And we're already at a point where white has hyper-aggressive options or more solid options. And personally, I'm not the hyper-aggressive sort, so I'm going to go with something a bit more solid. And after this game, I started looking into e4 lines for my students, which is pretty much the only reason I play e4 at this point, is to just keep ideas fresh in my memory so I can teach them better. And I do like Wesley So's knight d2 idea that was seen in his lifetime repertoire for e4 on Chessable. And the idea is that the knight's coming to b3, you often play a4, and you're just keeping an eye on the key break square on c5. Now, it's going to be very similar to, I think, maybe it was Lakdawala years ago in a Caro-Kann book called this the short variation, where we go bishop e2 and knight bd2, and the idea is going to be the same where the knight's coming to b3. And this is a pretty good example game because it shows if black doesn't play one of, say, two different variations here, he can get into trouble very, very quickly. Any other natural moves, white has a clear plan, and it's going to be a suffering type situation for black. And black decides to go with b5. And in and of itself, it looks like a space-grabbing move, but this is pretty much already a game-losing mistake. You need to be playing for a c5 break or an f6 break at some point, because these are our action points in the position. Pawn levers indicate plans. You often see ideas like h6, g5, and then bishop g7, and eventually f6, say, after castling. Or the immediate c5, which can get a little bit theoretical and nasty. But after b5, I play knight b3, and I'm getting a clamp on these c5 and a5 squares. And it gets worse. I'm not just allowing black to play knight b6. I'm going to play a4, and if I can get in something like a5, like all these key squares are going to be mine in the near future. My opponent doesn't sense the danger in the situation. I'm starting to eye the c5 square, where it's going to be more and more difficult to get that natural counterplay. Now on h6, black does find one of the key plans, but it's already too little too late. Notice the developmental difference in the two camps. White's ready to go, ready to attack. So the question is, how do we continue the plan here? And there is a key idea for white that it's the next phase. And this is what I would typically define in my opening books as a memory marker. The memory marker is going to be a move which is going to indicate our future plan over the next few moves. And if you forget this move, or can't come up with it over the board, you're going to be playing planlessly, and that's typically when mistakes are going to start happening. Here, since we've optimized development is easy. I see this so often when I'm teaching, say, beginners a structure like the London system, they will rocket out those moves. They'll get to the point where their king's castled, they got a pawn in the center, and they develop their knights and bishops. Then they go, and then they make some weird move because they don't have a memory marker to guide their point of thought once they reach, say, the pinnacle of the opening. And here, where should we be playing is the question to ask. Well, the center is locked, and the breaks belong to black. So the center, that's something we can't do anything with white. Well, should I be looking at a move like c3? That seems like it's going to encourage black to get counterplay on that wing. So after g5, much like in the French structure, a break point is with the f-pawn on f5. Knight e1. And after queen c7, f4. We're already ready to go for the attack. Takes. And black's finally getting counterplay, but he's still very much lacking in development because his entire king side hasn't been touched. So this is a pivotal moment. How would you handle this position? Now, in the main game, I decided to deal with the threat directly on c5. Engine, so why don't you just ruin the pawn structure and then go for this long-term attacking idea? This is kind of an annoying move. Then when they go for c4, you don't even recognize the fact that the knight is hit, and you can tell this is very engine-like play by both sides. And with all of these weaknesses, black is clearly worse. And of course, still behind, way behind in development. Now, not having engine eyes and seeing these types of long-term tactical possibilities in a blitz game, I decided to go for the direct route with d takes c5. Get rid of one of these pieces. And then we do this liquidation where my king's going to be safe. So now let's improve the position a bit. I've got a knight on e1 not doing anything. Let's go ahead and get that. So at this point, best for black would be queen e3, keeping tension. And this is an essential move. And after rook takes b4, I still have a small plus, but it's definitely a playable position as black, for the first time in the game, has a bit of breathing room. But my opponent made what I feel is the game-losing mistake. Because now we're reaching a position, and you can see this often in French and Caro-Kann structures, is the pawn structure is typically going to be the same with this pawn on e5 and the fixed pawns. So this is a very important, let's say, late middle game, or, man, it's not really an end game as we still have queens on the board, of how to play. And it's this bishop versus knight dynamic in the open position. The black knight really doesn't have a good post, whereas this bishop, I mean, he's lord of the board here. Bishops can't get much better than this. So knight c6, hitting the pawn. It's like, okay, how can we deal with this threat? Well, I'm going to go queen e2. Queen h5 was a possibility, but I like queen e2 a bit more, as we're keeping an eye on this a6 pawn as well, and defending. And this dual threat could coax a move like a5. Now the b5 square is available for our bishop. We have more flexibility to place pressure on the opponent. Rook a to f1, hitting the f-pawn. So defense needs to happen, and at this point, I don't feel that black wants to castle anymore. We apply more steady pressure, and you know things are going well in your position when you've got perfect harmony. Everyone's working together for a common goal. And after rook f8, what would you do here with white? We've got almost everything working together. How can we finish off our opponent? Well, some probably wanted to grab the h6 pawn. That'll hang the e5 pawn. Well, did we consider the engine's top choice, bishop b5? Is this hard to deal with this pin? Say, for instance, on rook d7, queen h6, still can't grab the e-pawn. I decided to go with more forcing bishop g6, just one more attacker. Nothing wrong with that. And now we'll grab. Still can't do anything about my bishop. And after queen g5, this is mostly a feel-good move, just showing you can't ever have my e-pawn. I like my e-pawn. And after bishop d3 with the idea of bishop b5, it's going to be devastating as black has surrounded himself by his own pieces, but can't really do much here. And that's going to do it for our first game in the series on the Advanced Caro-Kann. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification if you want to see more of these games as they're coming up in the future.